today's episode of Money Grip, I'm going to be showing you how to change a rack on a 2006 Mercedes C230 or a W203 C-Class. Starting off with the simplest part of the job, take the wheels off of both sides and then go underneath and take all the undercladding off. Not this part, mine's just missing, but everything that's like right under the rack. So you have easy access to the tie rods in the rack. So before we even start disassembling, as you can see, my car has a massive oil leak because it's a giant piece of shit. I'm gonna clean all this shit and then we'll get started. I'm gonna try this shit and a little bit of water and a whole lot of elbow grease. It's the next day. We got them outer tie rods pop loose. I'll pop the tie rods off and them inner boots, and then we'll get to popping the lines off and get to draining. Make sure you have a good catch band. So this holds the steering joint onto the rack. It's really hard to get to, and you're gonna need a 13mm wrench and socket to get to it. On the rack, it lives here, and it's absolutely terrible to get to. And this bolt that holds the pressure lines on, I couldn't even get to it under the AC compressor. I'm sure if I removed it, I'd have a lot more room, but I didn't. Remember to line up the aligner bit with the aligning, and then you undo these 4 bolts, and then the rack is completely free. I just wanted to take a quick second to recap what we were doing. I removed the outer tie rods, the 4 bolts that hold the rack in, and I disconnected a bolt up there that holds the steering shaft onto the rack. I dropped the sway bar. Now I have to disconnect the steering shaft from the the rack. So I'm gonna take a quick picture of that to make sure I have the angle right, and then pop it off, and then drop this fucking thing out and disconnect these high pressure lines. According to the Mercedes instructions, you're supposed to remove that bolt right there, not this really hard to get to bolt right here. So I'm gonna quickly remove this bolt that's really easy to get to, probably 12mm or something, and then we'll go about dropping this rack out, hopefully, and finishing up this service job. Yo, I literally unbolted it and then it slid right apart. Now I have access to the Torx bit right here for the lines. So now we're gonna undo this, drain it, drop this whole assembly. I need to replace my sway bar end links, so I'm gonna drop the whole sway bar too. You might have to do it, we'll find out in a minute. Let's get a Torx and get after this. The lines are super easy to pop off. It's one E12 bolt. I got them draining right now. I'm draining down the whole system. Yeah, it's not too bad once you follow the instructions. For those wondering why I left the inner and outer rods on this rack, I need to measure it because I'm gonna ballpark it with the new rack so that I can drive it half-ass straight to the alignment shop. Now we gotta pop the steering shaft off. Remember, these racks are silver, not black. If it's black, you got a leak. Anyways, remember to take pictures of how this deal lines up if you don't have the instruction book. And try not to wreck that black plastic piece. Now I'm gonna go about splitting this piece since I have the bolt removed. This next step is pretty crucial. As you can see, I have my steering wheel locked. It's not center right now. Now it's center. Crazy. But the important thing is this rack has never been out the car. It's original, so we know it's center. So what I did was I consulted the instructions. It has some spots to line up with this plasticky dude and this little chipper guy. So I lined them up and I measured from this ridge to this ridge. I had 45mm. I set this at 45mm. This one's broken, ever so. So I made sure that they were, you could kind of see they're like casting marks, both line up. But now we're gonna put this bolt back in. We got brain bushes set in here. I'm gonna steal one of these O-rings and smack it on this side. And then we'll set this back up in the car. Little side note about Mercedes. It's pretty chill how like they're like, oh yeah, undo the part that only goes on one fucking way and then do this on a bench or in some grass as I'm doing it, fucking caveman style. This is what I look like on the other side of the camera. This is it. So after you spill your power steering fluid all over the place and you get your rack back up in position, there's a little bracket up top. You can see it through the mounting holes if you look hard enough. I put the lines on the rack and I tied in the steering joint up top, and I have it positioned ready to go. And now I gotta start sliding some bolts up in here. Yeah. Gotta slide that bolt up in there. Nope. Trying to grab that bracket without pissing it off. Got it. Okay, now for the next one. I think I might need both hands for this deal. Moving on. Torque those 4 mounting bolts to spec, and the other 2 bolts for the intermediate shaft, and this one. And all that there's left to do on this like half-ass shitty tutorial video is put the sway bar on and the inner and outer tie rods and the new boots. So let's get them. All right, my brother's here. He's looking at memes. Check it out. Fresh. Fucking go! I used Big Bertha to tighten the inner tie rods, and then wherever my tiny adjustable wrench is. I also used Big Bertha to take the cap off because it was in a deep vacuum. Now it's time to fill and bleed. I topped off the power steering fluid to the low temperature range. We're gonna rock it. I'm gonna rock some CHF 11S for a little bit. Let's check out under the car. I just burped it. And everything's dry. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Oh, I forgot how good this car sounds. It's been like this for a week. Yo, Matt, give me some revs. For the final step of this rack swap, what you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna bleed the power steering fluid with the front end of the car jacked up, and you're gonna have it off and the key on, and you're gonna turn the wheels left to right and just bubble it. You're gonna turn it left and right about 10 times and then drive it and then check the fluid again. After you get done your rack swap, you want to drive your car to the alignment shop and check and see if your wheel's like super crooked or if anything's like weird, especially if you're re-bleeding the car. We're gonna take the Mobile on a quick gallivant around the corner. Please don't mind the headliner. I have to redo it. It was tickling the top of my head and leaving that hot Cheeto dust everywhere. You know how it goes. So generally, the car should feel, the steering should be pretty light and dead ahead. So my car was aligned before I changed the rack. So the steering wheel is kind of in the same spot as it was before. I'm gonna take this car to get aligned later this week after I do a rear camber kit on it. Oh shit, should've saw that coming. To summarize this video in short, lift the car up, take the undercladding off, pop the outer tie rods loose, open up the power steering reservoir cap, undo the 4 bolts that hold the rack, and make sure you don't lose that top plate that holds it in, and then disconnect your front sway bar completely, move it out the way, undo that 1 bolt closest to the firewall for the steering column, let the whole rack come forwards, undo the 1 bolt that holds high pressure line and the return line in place, and then drop that whole thing, let it drain, and then make sure your steering wheel is locked in place and centered, and realign the intermediate shaft on the new rack, put it in, bolt it back up, reverse the steps, torque it to spec. I should have all the torque specs listed in the description. And then make sure everything's tight and drive it real slow to the alignment shop and get your front end realigned. My pussy pink, my booty hole brown. If you like the video or need any help, leave a comment. If you have any questions, I'll answer in the comment section. Like and subscribe for more Mercedes content. About to do a pull and close this deal out. Dude, I sound like a 350Z.